A very warm welcome to The Bottom Line, a wrap of the business news of the day. I'm Frances Hurd. Let's start with a number for the day, which has South Africa's investor community worried. It confirms that foreigners are still ditching South African stocks at a very rapid rate. So, last week, foreigners sold South African equities at the fastest pace in 2 years. Let's look at this number. There was a net outflow of 11.8 billion, or nearly 12 billion rand, which was the heaviest week of outflows since September 2017. Now, this money leaving the country is a trend that we've been following this year. South African stocks fell by nearly 6% in the 3 months that ended in September, and the JSE confirmed that disinvestment had reached 50 billion rand for the year by then. So this figure of nearly 12 billion in just a week, by the way, adding to those woes. So why is so much money leaving South Africa? Well, there are concerns that economic reforms are not happening fast enough and the local economy is just not growing very much. South Africa also being affected by developments in the world, mainly in the United States. So US markets jumped on Friday, lifted by hopes that the US Central Bank, the Fed Reserve, would loosen monetary policy in response to weak economic data. But jitters have returned today ahead of talks about trade between the United States and China on Thursday. The world's two biggest economies have been engaged in trade wars, and this is a fresh effort to work something out. But China has signaled it's reluctant to sign a new trade deal with the US and may play hardball. The JSE did rise today, but the rand weakening to around 15.13 to the dollar by the close of business after initially strengthening this morning to close to 15 to the dollar. The rand battling against a stronger dollar, which tends to benefit when these trade tensions flare up. Let's discuss further. We're joined by the CEO of Inkunzi Wealth, Owen Nkomo, via Skype. So, Owen, that number we brought up earlier, how serious is it that last week we saw the heaviest week of outflows from South African equities in 2 years?
Hi, Francis. It's a relatively big number. And just to remind the viewers at home that the JSE trades on average about 20 to 25 billion rands of equities on a daily basis. So the 11.8 billion rands that's been sold by foreigners is a relatively big number as well. And it is definitely a concern. But one might think as well that there's a lot of emerging markets transactions that are happening. People are now starting to switch out of emerging markets into the developed markets. Francis, and South Africa obviously is one of those countries that guys would switch out of when they're selling the developing economies and sending money back to the developed economies.
So are we just caught up in these global trade wars and concerns about global growth, or are we as South Africa still scoring own goals? What do you think is the main factor here? All right, what a pity. We've lost Owen Nkomo. We'll see if we can get him back on Skype, but saying this is a concern. I wanted to ask him, you know, we do have a lot of foreigners' money moving in and out. Let's try and put this into context. All right, let's move on.